There's something you do every day that you never mention to anyone, not because it's wrong, not because it's strange, but because it belongs to a place inside you that the outside world rarely reaches. You rehearse conversations before having them. You hold back emotions you know no one else would know how to receive. You protect a version of yourself that only exists in silence. And in that silence, there is more power than anyone around you imagines. Dostoevsky left us with a phrase that few people stop to truly feel. What you do in secret defines your power. It's not what you show. It's not what you say. It's what you do when nobody's watching. This video won't explain anything to you. It won't diagnose you. It won't judge you. It will simply observe calmly, without rushing some of the quietest and most human behaviors that exist. If any part of this feels familiar to you, you're not alone. And if you ever feel like sharing your experience, the comments are open. The conversation you rehearse alone before saying anything out loud. Before any important conversation, something happens in silence. You're already there, in placing the right words in the right order. Your inner voice chooses the tone, weighs each phrase, anticipates the other person's reaction as if it already knows what comes next. It's not nervousness. It's not insecurity. It's a type of preparation that the mind develops on its own, without anyone asking, without anyone teaching. As if there were an internal director who needs a rehearsal before going on stage. And when the conversation finally happens, it rarely follows the script. The other person says something different. The moment changes direction. But the rehearsal wasn't in vain because it was never about controlling the other person. It was about meeting you before exposing yourself. The silent judgment you make about someone and never confess, it happens in fractions of a second, uninvited and without warning. Someone speaks, acts, or simply enters a room and something inside you has already formed a complete opinion before a single word of yours has even been uttered. You say nothing. You maintain a neutral expression, a cordial tone, but internally, an analysis has already been completed, filed away somewhere quiet in your mind, accessible only to you. This judgment doesn't define who you are. It defines that you observe more deeply than it appears, that behind every polite smile lies an active intelligence that never stops, even when everything seems calm. And this silence you maintain about what you truly think isn't hypocrisy, it's discernment. It's the awareness that not everything one perceives needs to be said and that keeping a thought to oneself is also a form of power. The version of yourself that you only show when no one is looking. There's a version of you that almost no one knows. Not because you hide it out of shame, but because it's too delicate to be exposed to eyes that haven't yet proven themselves safe. When you're alone, something relaxes. Your posture changes, your voice changes, your rhythm changes. You laugh at things you wouldn't explain to anyone. You think about subjects you'd never get into in a normal conversation. This version isn't your true version in the sense that the others are false. It's simply the version that hasn't yet found the right world to exist in. The one that dances without music, that cries for no clear reason, that stays silent for hours and feels completely whole in that. And there's something profoundly healthy about protecting that space, in knowing that not everything needs to be shared to be real, that the part of you that lives in silence might be exactly the part that keeps you whole out there. The mental scripts you repeat to prepare for situations that never happen. You've spent hours preparing for a conversation that never happened, for a confrontation that never came, for a situation that existed only within you, complete, detailed, almost too real. The mind constructs these scenarios with silent precision. It chooses the setting, assigns the roles, writes the dialogue, and you go through this script repeatedly, adjusting details like someone revising an important document. From the outside, nobody sees anything. You're standing still, quiet, perhaps staring at a fixed point. But inside, there's a film unfolding with tension, resolution, and sometimes even a satisfying ending. These scripts are not a waste of mental energy. They are the way the mind has found to process what has not yet happened, to train for the unpredictable, to feel less vulnerable in a world that rarely gives warning before it arrives. The secret satisfaction you feel when someone who underestimated you fails, you don't celebrate. You don't say anything to anyone. Perhaps you even maintain a politely neutral expression when the news arrives, when the moment unfolds, when what you knew in silence is finally confirmed. But inside, something settles down in a different way. It's not exactly joy. It's something more subtle than that. It's the feeling of an account settling on its own, without you having to do anything to collect it. This feeling exists in almost every human being, and almost no one admits it aloud, because it carries an uncomfortable honesty that we were hurt, and that it still mattered. And perhaps the most revealing thing isn't the satisfaction itself. It's what it indicates about how much you held back, about how much you continued to believe in yourself in silence, in moments when no one around you seemed to do the same. The control you exert over your own image without anyone realizing it's calculated. There's a silent curation happening in real time. The word you choose over another, the detail you mention and what you leave out, the way you enter a space and already know exactly how you want to be perceived. It's not deception, it's architecture. It's the awareness that the impression you leave is also a form of language and that you learn to speak this language without anyone teaching you. You observe people's reactions as you converse. You adjust your tone without it being noticeable. You recalibrate your self-narrative in real time with a precision never before recorded anywhere. And the most interesting thing isn't the control itself, it's that it coexists with a genuine version of you that is also present in the same moment. Both are irreal. Both are yours, and only you know where one ends and the other begins. The emotions you process in silence because you know no one would understand them. Not everything you feel finds a destination outside of yourself. Some emotions arrive, are recognized internally, and remain there not out of repression, not out of fear, but out of the silent awareness that the external world has no space for them. Over time, and without realizing it, you've learned to identify what can be said and what needs to be processed alone, not because you're closed-minded, but because you're observant. And observant people notice early on when an environment isn't ready to receive them. So you process it internally at your own pace. You revisit the emotion like someone examining a delicate object under dim light. You understand what it came to say. You absorb what needs to be absorbed. And you move on without anyone around knowing what just happened inside you. This silent processing isn't loneliness. It's a form of intimacy with oneself that few people develop. It's knowing that you are capable of going through what you feel without needing the whole world to pause and witness it. The way you review past conversations and rewrite what you should have said. The conversation ended hours ago, maybe days ago, but your mind in set moment rearranging the words, redistributing the weight, finding the exact phrase that didn't come at the right time. You recount the scene with a clarity that the actual moment lacked. Now you know what you should have answered. Now the sequence makes sense. The argument is complete. Your version in this revision is more accurate, more present, more whole. This habit has a technical name that doesn't matter here. What matters is the feeling this silent need to return to the past, not to suffer over it, but to understand it better than was possible in the heat of the moment. And there's something profoundly human in this review. It reveals that you care about the quality of what you communicate, that your words have weight for you even after they've been spoken, that you are still, silently, trying to make yourself understood, even if only to yourself. The power you hold on to precisely because you never reveal how much you know or how much you feel. There are things you know about the people around you that they will never know you know. Insights you silently recorded, unintentionally kept, and that remained there, intact, never needing confirmation. You observe more than you speak. You feel more than you show. And over time, this distance between what you perceive and what you choose to reveal has become a discrete and invisible form of balance. It's not manipulation, it's restraint. It's the awareness that revealing everything you feel isn't vulnerability, it's exposure. And you learned the difference between the two in a way that doesn't come with a manual. The silence you maintain about the depth of what you perceive is not distance. It is calculated presence. It is knowing that the most lasting power comes not from what you display, but from what you consciously choose never to give away. The real identity that you keep secret because it's the only thing that's truly yours. In the midst of everything you represent to the world, there is a core that remains untouched, not because you struggle to hide it, but because you instinctively know it wasn't meant to be displayed. This core element doesn't have an easy name. It's not your profession, it's not your history, it's not what people say about you. It's something that predates all of that. Something that existed before the roles, before the expectations, before any version that the world helped to construct. You feel it more clearly at certain times, when you're completely alone and the silence is honest, when something moves you inside without you being able to explain it to anyone, when you act in a way that only makes sense to yourself. And perhaps that's exactly what Dostoevsky meant. That what you do in silence, what you protect in secret, what you carry without ever surrendering, that's where your real power has always been. You've arrived here because something along this path resonated with you, not in a strange way, not in a disturbing way, but with that quiet feeling of recognition that comes when someone describes what you've always experienced but never named. Everything observed in this video exists within ordinary people on ordinary days, in moments that pass without leaving a visible trace. The mental rehearsals, the judgments held back, the emotions processed in silence, the protected identity, the power that never needed to be proclaimed. None of these behaviors need to be corrected. None of them are a sign of anything wrong. They are simply the internal architecture of a mind that observes, that feels deeply, and that has learned to inhabit its own silence. Dostoevsky wasn't talking about dark secrets when he said that what you do in secret defines your power. He was talking about that invisible layer you preserve, which the outside world rarely reaches and which remains entirely yours. If this video made you pause for a moment, made you look inward with a little more calm, then it has fulfilled its only purpose, not to explain things to you, but to accompany you in silence for a few minutes. If you identified with any part of this journey, consider subscribing to the channel, not out of obligation, but because there are more insights like this waiting for you.